I'm thinking about the story of Jesus and the disciples when they're on the boat and that raging storm was, there, and the winds and the waves are crazy. The disciples are freaking out and Jesus is sleeping. And they go and they wake Jesus and he wakes up from his slumber and he's unbothered. He's unbothered, and there's no way, if the storm was that bad, he could hear it. In this boat, it's not a cruise ship, it's not Carnival Cruise Line. It's just probably a little old wooden, metal, whatever boat. There's no way he doesn't hear the storm, but he's unbothered. He's still unbothered, and they're freaking out, and they tell Jesus, they're freaking out, and Jesus just walks up there and he says, winds and waves cease, and they stop. But he was unbothered. He kept a position of being unbothered. And I look at our lives today, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed when winds and waves are raging in our lives and we are experiencing a storm. One, we have the authority to say cease. And two, we are expected to live in that unbothered position. See, Jesus was unbothered, and him being unbothered in that story in the Word, it just sets the tone and the position we need to be taking in our own lives when we're going through storms and when the winds and the waves are raging against us. We are expected to take an unbothered stance, because if Jesus was bothered, I highly doubt he would have been able to have the ability to go and tell the winds and waves to cease. Yes, he was Jesus, but there's also an importance of that posture that he was in, because he understood that nothing could get him out of his authority. Nothing could get him out of the ability to do that. Nothing can get him out of the ability of peace. See, if we're not walking in peace, if we're not walking in our authority, if we're not walking unbothered at what the enemy is throwing at us, then we're going to be like waves and winds flowing and just being knocked everywhere, knocked around when we don't need to. We don't need to, and we forfeit our authority, we forfeit our peace, we forfeit all that Christ has given us when we do that, when we allow the waves and the winds to affect us when they shouldn't. They are just waves and winds. They come and go. The storm doesn't need to dictate our lives. Christ does. Christ already told us what we have. And so this is why I love the way Jesus handled the situation. He handled it unbothered because he knew who he was. And it is no different for us. We need to be unbothered and not allow the opposition to have such an effect on us when Christ has already given us everything we need to fight against the opposition, withstand the enemy, and live out the victory.